Baseball is back, but baseball is now Schlitz beer. Hi everybody, I'm Marky Billson. The announcement was made yesterday. Major League Baseball will have a season after all. It'll begin on July 24th. They'll play a 60-game season, and I never thought I would say this, but I'm indifferent. I actually don't mind the 60-game season. I do remember the 1981 baseball season, and even though the best team in baseball, the Cincinnati Reds, by the playoff structure they had back then, did not make the playoffs, and I really think it hurt the Reds franchise after that. They finished in last place the very next season, but even then, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who won the World Series with the third best record in their division overall, are still considered to be the accepted world champion of the 81 season. There never really was a lot of asterisk call, even in 1981, even when I said maybe there should be. But regardless, I can handle the 60 games. In fact, there's been a lot of talk that baseball should have a shorter season because, you know what? I don't like it when fans are bundling up in Cincinnati in 35-degree weather at the start of the season and the stands are all empty. And I also don't like it when the World Series is played in drizzle in November and is kind of an afterthought to Monday Night Football, which in itself is becoming something of an afterthought. So I don't mind that, but boy, it's gotten to be where I'm indifferent, and I really don't like what they're going to do. The interleague play, the runner at second base to begin the 10th inning, folks, it's like this. We used to hear about baseball. Oh, baseball, it's the perfect sport. It's pure. It really hasn't changed in 100 years. Over the past, let's say, few years. Let's go over the past generation. These are the changes that have been made in Major League Baseball. We have interleague play. We'll have the universal DH, which means a lack of competitive balance and a lack of strategy, which will be a lack of appeal. I'm told that Chief Nakahoma and Chief Wahoo, the logos of the Atlanta Braves and Cleveland Indians, are racist. We'll have a 3-batter minimum for relief pitchers, corporate sponsorship of stadiums, so I have no idea where the game is being played. The Los Angeles Dodgers now charge for their primo seats more than $1,000 a ducat. Used to be those seats in the mid-'80s when they were becoming the first team to draw 3 million fans in a Major League Baseball season. You know what those seats went for? $6. Now, I'm sure they were sold on a full season basis, as they are now, but even so, it made you think, boy, baseball is affordable. Let's go to the game. No more. You don't have pitchers throwing complete games anymore. Strategy is done by rote. Thank you, Mark Madden, back in Pittsburgh, for that line. I really thought it was great. No intentional walks. I mean, you have them, but I'm not even sure what's going on. Oh, go to first. What's going on? He said, he's first. Next hitter. It just doesn't seem right. It's supposed to speed up the game, but really, I don't know what's going on when the manager just points to first base or holds up 4 fingers or whatever they do. There's diminished coverage on network television. I know everybody has cable, if not cutting the cords and watching on YouTube or something like that, or MLB TV. But, I used to listen to every game I could on 50,000-watt radio stations on my GE Super Radio at night. Actually couldn't wait for it to get dark so I could listen to all the baseball games that I could. Now, I've got to pay for that broadcast to listen online. And frankly, I usually say, well, I can always read about it the next day. When I have to pay for something I used to get for free, yeah, it's like, that ticket costs $1,000. I used to get it for $6. No. Steals are de-emphasized by the 3 true outcomes. We've basically changed the game to home run derby. There is going to be the aforementioned runner at second base to begin the 10th inning. You don't have to finish in first place anymore. A wild card is good enough to make the playoffs. Finishing in second, that's okay. That's why I don't have a problem with the 60-game regular season, because it used to be we were going to play 162 to see who would finish in first. The true best team was going to go to a limited playoff field. Now you have as many rounds of playoffs in baseball as you do in hockey. Do you really need 162 games, except, we've always done it that way? How are you going to have records without the 162-game season? That sort of thing. The managers are now dressed in sloppy sweatshirts in the dugout, not in actual uniforms, which is a little bit less professional than I'm used to. It's a little thing, but still. World Series in November when everyone's thinking football, unfortunately. And now there will be no fans in the stands. The all-time home run king, both in single season and lifetime, is a figure of scorn. He's thought to have cheated. And the all-time hit king is also a figure of scorn. You know, at one time, Ty Cobb was a figure of scorn, but now we understand, we used to call him a racist, and turns out he isn't. And remember when we all said that George Steinbrenner was crazy? Well, now there's an effort to get him into the Hall of Fame, along with guys like Marvin Miller and Bud Selig, who don't belong in the first place. It's just gotten to the point right now where, although I do realize change has always been a part of the game, this isn't the game that I fell in love with when I was 8 years old. It really and truly isn't. And again, I know you can say, change part of the game and all this. This isn't, the manager doesn't coach third base anymore. This isn't, pick the glove up and take it with you to the dugout instead of letting it back on the field. This isn't, you know what, probably be a good idea if the players didn't chew tobacco anymore. Now, this is trying to tell us things like, Kate Smith is racist! And frankly, after a while, we start to tune out. Now, again, this is why I'm a little bit indifferent. I mean, I could go into what the players, what the roster is going to be. Instead of 25 players on a team, it'll be 30 to start, dwindling to 28, then 26. You won't have expanded rosters in September. They'll have a taxi squad. You'll take 3 players with you in case anybody gets hurt, because there's not going to be minor league baseball. Something, though, that's very interesting, there's all that bickering back and forth, and this, really took a long time, and finally Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, just put his foot down and said, this is what we're going to do. But even someone like Sam Reich, who's a friend of mine, you can go look this up on Facebook, put out a Facebook post saying, I've always been an attorney, and I've represented both Major League Baseball players, which Sam Reich has done, and worked with the union. But even I don't think this is a very good deal for the owners, because ultimately they can be sued for it. And if that was going to happen, why didn't you just say, you know what, I know these guys, we're never going to work out a deal here. Early, let's get to playing on July 4th. I can implement this. We'll get the season started and then wonder about the chips falling where they may. In essence, he finally pulled the trigger, did Manfred, on that, but only after a lot of opportunity to take control and attention of the sports world has now vanished. Baseball will come into fruition around the same time that the NBA will start up, the NHL will start up, and football will start up. And it's never been for baseball I guess there have been a few days or so, but yeah, having to compete with 4 sports for an entire season now just doesn't look all that good. Even Trevor Bauer, the outspoken pitcher of the Cincinnati Reds, has tweeted, "We're driving the bus straight off a cliff." He is absolutely willing to criticize his union as well as his employers, and why not? He makes $17.5 million a year, And you know what? I think he'd rather get a salary like that rather than complain or worry about, I wonder if we should be getting as players 50% of the revenues or 49%. Either way, they're going to be paid a little bit more. I know you always hear, greedy owners, why? They don't know how to run a team and all this. But you know what? The universal DH, that's a product of the Players Union. The Players Union wants a universal DH because the DH is the second highest paid player on the diamond, next to the first baseman. Never mind the fact that it kills strategy, and that'll also kill competitive balance and really piss off baseball traditionalists. And frankly, that's what you got left right now. So this isn't a very good move for Major League Baseball. By the way, if you're wondering about what the players can sue the owners on, it's things like this, and it's really petty. There'll be no $25 million postseason players pool, so the players won't be paid except for meal money for the playoffs and the World Series. Do they show up? Do they? By the way, in the NFL in 1947, the Pittsburgh Steelers actually went on strike before their first playoff game, probably why they lost it, because all they were going to get for playing an extra playoff game was a game salary. So I wonder, would we have anything like that in modern era? If we do, because let's face it, the players are not starving. They are getting paid inordinate wages, far greater than 1947 NFL players. That would be a horrible PR move, something that Trevor Bauer certainly recognizes. There's also something, there's supposed to be $33 million in advance salary that would have been forgiven for 769 players at the bottom of the salary scale while in the minors. I don't quite get that. There's going to be no minor league baseball. That's why you're going to have 30 players on a roster to begin and 30 more on a taxi squad in case somebody gets hurt or something like that. So I don't understand quite, where that comes from. And I also don't really cry that much because the minimum salary for a Major League Baseball player right now is more than $500,000 a year. The union has done absolutely nothing for the minor league baseball player, whose job will be contracted, certainly, at least a quarter of them, and they're not paid that well outside of a signing bonus to begin with. They also are not doing anything for the pre-big money player who could use medical benefits or a pension in his old age. Every player post-1975, even if you only have one at-bat, gets a pension, but prior to that, well, you're on your own. The Players Union should care about that. Instead, they are motivated to make sure Garrett Cole makes $36 million a year and doesn't have to settle for just $30 million. I know that you say, the owners are making money hands over fist and all that. Years ago, I remember seeing a study that the Minnesota Twins, at the time were probably worth about $100 million, had made $1.5 million profit. That's what was estimated. And a sports writer lambasted them. How dare they make that profit? Why don't they spend it on their minor league system? It's inexcusable. And I said, wait a minute here. If I have a $100 million investment, maybe I'd like to make more money off of that than what I would get if I opened up a savings account at the bank. And you've got to start seeing, in the world of high finance, I realize it's an unsympathetic, situation of high finance. It's, the owner in Slapshot telling Reggie Dunlap, oh, yes, I could keep your team going and sell you, but I'd make more money if I just folded it. Certainly you understand us eliminating your job so I can make more money. But it's not quite that cut and dry. No one is really losing a job that they shouldn't. I do understand the minor league baseball player, but there have been a lot of clutter and there have been a lot of minor league baseball players who are playing in the minor leagues who shouldn't be. I'm a former minor league baseball broadcaster, I got to tell you that. And frankly, like I said, again, what is the union doing for them? If anything, the minor league baseball salary will increase in the future with contraction. There are a lot of poorly run minor league baseball franchises. I've worked in it, and there's just a lot of stuff, the public money that they want to keep funding bad baseball and all that, just really isn't worth it in that instance. But again, like I said, I think that there's this feeling that Major League Baseball should be run as a non-profit enterprise. And it shouldn't be. And at what point do you say that, well, you know what? If someone is going to put in millions and millions of dollars as an investment, maybe they should be taking in some additional revenue and not running it like it's a toy that they would spend money, not like it's an expensive classic car or something like that. That's sort of the way that so much of the media suggests that baseball franchises, that owners should treat their teams. That said, anyone trying to tell you it's the owners' 100% fault, it's the players, I'm beginning to sympathize with the owners because of the universal DH, and I don't really care about anything else. I just want to see the game that I fell in love with. And it's not the game that I fell in love with. And right now, there's such little competitive balance. Competitive balance is now saying, oh, it's good enough to finish in second place, or maybe even third as it used to be to finish in first. It's not competitive balance and such. So, to me, it's not so much one side or the other. It's a pox on both their houses. Yeah, even the owners and such. But this is where I go, baseball is Schlitz beer. Schlitz, and even to a younger generation, I'm sure that Schlitz beer denotes a connotation kind of like Sears or something. Okay, yesterday's company, but you've got an understanding it used to be big. Something like, I don't know, Pontiac or something. Of course, they don't make Pontiacs anymore. They still do make Schlitz beer. And baseball will still be played 100 years from now and stuff and such. But Schlitz was once the most popular beer in America. And it was a viable big beer brand throughout the 70s up until 1981. But two things happened. Late 60s, early 70s, Schlitz changed their formula. Much like baseball is changing their formula. Yeah, the interleague play, the universal DH. We don't have a thinking man's game anymore. It's more like go and watch people at a driving range. Yeah, so that's one of the changes that Schlitz beer made, and it still had its, diehards and people are just going to buy something different. That's what I know, but the base did erode. And then finally in 1981, there was labor strife. Oh yeah, a big strike at the Milwaukee Schlitz plant, Schlitz the beer that made Milwaukee famous, and that killed the company. The employees lost all their jobs. Schlitz was sold to competitors who then de-emphasized the brand. It's still made. It's not in Milwaukee. And good luck trying to find it. That's exactly where baseball is headed. And frankly, it's where they're going to go. It's going to be a cult sport. Just like, say, hockey. If not even less popular than that, if they don't go back to what worked before. I'm Marky Billson.